Hey Digital Media 1 students, this is Mr. Roper and welcome to the Impossible Buildings project. For this project, we're going to be incorporating all the tools you've learned over the last 2 weeks for selecting pixels and modifying pixels using the lasso, using Magic Wand, and using your clone stamp tool. And we're going to be putting these together to create a impossible building that is a little bit surreal and otherworldly. I've got a couple examples here on the handout that I put for you guys on Google Classroom, and you can see some of the things that different artists have done with this prompt. We're basically going to be selecting images from other photos of houses and buildings and then assembling them together into one image that creates this kind of dreamlike structure. So here's some of the things that other artists have created, and I'm going to show you how to set up your project to start off today. Okay, so the other thing that you've been given on Google Classroom is this folder called Impossible Building Resources. And in this folder are lots of high resolution photos of buildings and structures from around the world. Feel free to download as many as you want from this folder to use in this project. All you have to do is right click on it and click download. Then we're going to jump over into Photoshop and we're going to set up a new document for you to create your building in. So I'm going to go to New File. And we're going to go in to this window here. And first off, we'll call it your last name, first name, Impossible Building. And we're going to set the dimensions for this to be for print. So we're going to choose print. And then we'll create a document that is 8.5 inches by 11 inches, letter size paper. Okay. Then go ahead and hit create. And that will make your new blank canvas. Now that we've got our blank canvas, we can start to bring in the photos that we're going to manipulate for this. And I would suggest that you guys choose a house that's kind of like your starter house. Something that has a little bit of blue sky above it so we have some space to build into. And so I'm going to pick one of these images right here that has a little bit of sky above it. And I'll jump into Photoshop and let's open that up. File, open. From my downloads, and we'll run this back up. There's the house. Okay, so I want to start with this house. I'm going to be adding pieces to it. I'll take my move tool and I'm going to drag this photo into my new blank canvas, just like we did on the hamburger project, and drop it to the bottom of the screen. And you're going to see that you end up with a whole lot of extra space at the top. This is good because we're going to extend that sky all the way to the top of the page so that you can add parts to your house. So to do that, I'm going to take my marquee selection tool. I'm going to select all of this open area at the top of the page, plus a little bit of the sky down here. And I'm going to go to Edit, Fill, and I'm going to choose Content Aware. Now what Content Aware does is it grabs pixels from this part of the sky and it's going to use those to fill in all the other parts. So when I hit OK, it will automatically copy those pixels and it's going to scatter them in the sky area to fill in the open space above. Okay, give that a second to work. Boom. We get a pretty seamless open sky there that now we can add other parts to the building. So now I'm going to go grab some other images that I can use. I'll be right back. Okay, so now I'm going to open up some other images to combine into my house here. Let's go back to my downloads, and I've downloaded some of these ahead of time. I'm going to go ahead and open a few of them up and show you kind of the process we're going to work here. We've been doing a lot of work with the selection tools, so that's where I want you to focus your energy on today. I'm going to select this corner part of this house here to use in the new design. And the best way to do this, since it has a lot of straight angles in it, is to take my Polygon Lasso Tool. And I'm going to just use this to select right around the outside edges of this. I forget what these are called. You get it, the corner of the house. I'm going to scale right up here, go to the corners. And as carefully as I can, I'm making a selection around the outside of this part of the house. Okay, and back to the beginning. All right, so now that it's selected, here's where we're going to learn a new trick. I want to cut this out, but I also don't want to leave all the rest of this image behind because there might be other pieces from this that I can use. And so one of the most powerful things in Photoshop is this idea of masking. Once you've made a selection around something, you can come over to your layers palette. And at the very bottom, you'll see this icon that looks like a rectangle with a hole cut out of it. This creates a layer mask, and watch what it does. As soon as I click this button, it cuts out the entire rest of the image, but it hides it behind this little black mask, okay? And there's some things you can do with this that are really powerful. For example, if I take my paintbrush and I'm on this mask layer, oh, my brush is really big, so I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller, okay? Anything that I paint on this layer with the color black disappears, okay? It works like an eraser. It lets me cut out more of the image. But anything that I paint with white comes back, okay? Look how cool this is. I can actually paint back in parts of the house that I might need, okay? And that even includes, check this out, if I want to add parts that I didn't originally cut out. Okay, like I can get that weather vane back. I can get some of the trees and the roof back by painting over this with that brush. Okay, so masks work like an eraser that you can undo, and that's one of the most powerful features in Photoshop. Okay, so now that I've got this masked, I'm going to go ahead and take my move tool and I'm going to drag this over into my impossible building. Okay, I'm drop it in here. There we go. And I'm going to find a place where it might work on my building. I think what I'll try to do is I'm going to stick it onto the corner of this roof right here. Okay. Also, notice that as I brought this over, it came along with its mask. And so that's going to be super helpful here. Watch what I can do. I'm going to hide this layer for a minute. Okay. And I'm going to use my lasso tool to just create an edge across the top of the house. Okay. This might be confusing at first, but watch what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to just draw a big old box around this. Okay. Now I'm going to turn that new layer back on and see how I've trimmed it to the side of the house. So what I can do now, I know exactly where I need to paint to erase this. Okay. I can go up to this layer. I'm going to select inverse. That's everything that was outside of those dotted lines, and take my paintbrush and watch. Whoops. Switches to black. I'm going to erase that part of the house off so it's hidden behind there. Okay. You could also do this by hand. You don't need to have the selection tool. Let me see if I can go back a step here. We'll go back, and what I could have done is just zoom in and use my black brush on this mask layer right here, and I could very carefully go across the edge and erase these parts off. Okay, so I get a very nice clean edge. Right now, first this is going to look kind of fake because obviously the colors here are a little bit brighter than they are in this part of the building, but don't worry about that. We're going to actually clean that up in the last part of this project. Okay. All right, let's bring on one more. I'm going to go to this house, which also has some really weird and creepy features to it. And I think I want to grab this roof line right here. So I'm going to take my Polygon Lasso Tool again, move that out of the way. And I'm going to select this roof line. I'll grab it right here. We'll take it all the way back to the beginning. We'll take it up to the top. Whoops, let's see right here and then up to the top. Okay, I'm going to make a mask by clicking on the Add Mask button. And then I'm going to move this up into my image and drop it into place. Okay. Now, obviously, the perspective is a little bit wrong on this. It's straight on while this house is a little bit of a slant. So here's where I'm going to use a special tool. I'll go to Edit, Transform, and I'm going to use my scale and my perspective settings. Okay. I'll use scale here. Zoom out, or you can see it. There we go. And I can scale this up to make it bigger if I need to. Again, there we go. Okay. And then if I go to edit, transform, perspective, what I can do is by grabbing one side of it and pulling down, you see how it tilts it to match the perspective of the house. So I'm going to stretch this guy out a little bit, try to get it at the same angle. That looks pretty good. Let's go edit, transform, rotate, and I'll rotate it a little bit so it's the same angle of the roof. That looks kind of cool. And then hit enter, and it creates my tilted building. Okay. So little by little, we're going to be building up more and more pieces to this house and make it really crazy. You might also decide that you want to remove parts of the house. For example, some of these can be made really creepy just by removing doors and windows. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go down to my original house image, this first one that I started with. And I'm going to take the Polygon lasso and just a lasso around some of these windows here. Okay, I'm going to select these two windows to get rid of. Okay, so I selected around them. Then I'm going to take my clone stamp tool and I'm going to clone shingles from this part of the house to hide these two windows. So check this out. I'm going to alt click, grab some pixels. I'm going to come up here and I'm just going to brush around until that disappears. Let's grab some more. Alt click. This is similar to what we did with the car. Okay. I'm grabbing some pixels and I'm using them to cover it up. Let's get some more. Alt click. Come up here and erase out that window as far as I can go. Grab some more. Alt click. Come up here and cover it up. Okay. And we can actually erase windows and make the surfaces of these buildings look kind of weird and distorted. All right. So keep adding pieces. You're going to end up with a really complex, really layered design here. And at the very end, we're going to apply some filters to make this all blend together. But I'm going to save that for the next video. Okay. Give it a shot. Get creative, guys, and have fun with this today.